We are getting you up to speed with the inside details of Congress strategy against Pilot. These are the exclusive details that CNN News 18 gets for you. The Congress was hoping that the rebel MLAs in Pilot would come back during the weekend when the session was adjourned. Legal political pressure was also something that the Congress tried. Even if Sachin wins this petition, gets success, at the High Court, if they abstain or they are absent, in case of a floor test, the Speaker can still disqualify them. So the strategy of the Congress party essentially has been that they've put all the pressure, all that they could do to get Pilot and the other MLAs back. If it doesn't work, they will go ahead and follow the due procedure which is there, in which the Speaker can disqualify them later as well. Pallavi is with us on the broadcast. Pallavi, over to you. Break this down for us. Am I audible to you, Pallavi? We'll try and connect to Pallavi in just a bit. I think there is an audio problem with Pallavi, but I'll just reiterate all the details that she's got for us. This is the strategy that the Grand Old Party has followed so far. Before the hearing, which is today on Monday, currently underway, the hearing is underway, the Congress tried everything. They applied political, legal pressure, trying to win back the MLAs, trying to talk to Sachin Pilot. All of that clearly didn't work, and that hearing is happening right now at the Rajasthan High Court. Now, even if in a worst case scenario where the Ashok Gehlot camp or the Speaker's office loses this petition before the Rajasthan High Court, there is still other avenues available to exercise against Sachin Pilot and the dissident MLAs, which is that a disqualification can still happen once a session has been called in and the MLAs don't vote according to the party line or they don't follow the whip. In that case, there can be a clear case of disqualification that can be made out under the 10th schedule. This is the strategy that the Congress party has in place, because some time ago we were pointing out to you that the argument has been that these notices by the Speaker are legally premature. He had no right to issue these notices because the MLAs had not indulged in any sort of anti-party activities, and it was not proper to issue these notices to them. The Rajasthan High Court had scheduled the matter for today. The division bench of the High Court is hearing the matter right now. Both sides are putting their set of arguments before the Rajasthan High Court. Legal eagles like Harish Salve, Mukul Rohatgi, Abhishek Manu Singhvi are locking horns at the High Court. Pallavi is with us on the broadcast. Pallavi, over to you. Break this down for us.
Well, what we are picking up is the Congress strategy. When I did ask a top Congress source, they told us that, we were actually taking advantage of this adjournment, which has taken place over the weekend. This was our way of applying, also reaching out to the Congress party, giving these dissident MLAs and Sachin Pilot a chance to try and reconnect with us. That hasn't happened. There's also kind of a legal political pressure which is being put on them. Remember, not once but twice an SOG team goes across to the resort, tries to get the audio samples, and also tries to ensure that, they join the investigations. That hasn't happened. So what Congress is saying is that now what we're going to do is we are going to wait for the court verdict to come in. Now, if the court verdict goes in favor of Sachin Pilot, all is still not lost for us, because there's a 10th schedule of the Constitution who gives the Speaker the right to remove them in case they don't take part in the vote of confidence.
So, Pallavi, as you're telling us, they have a strategy ready even in a worst-case scenario going forward. What is the feeling you have? Are they confident? Because political posturing is as important as the legal battle. What are the feelers that you're getting from the Gehlot camp and the Speaker's office?
Well, I mean, the Speaker says that, I haven't violated any constitutional requirements. I do have the right to issue this notice. This whole argument that a whip cannot be applied when the House is not in session is completely fallacious. In fact, that's the petition or the argument which is going to be given by Abhishek Manu Singhvi. The hearing is still going on, even as we speak, Anusha. And the fact is, there is another political battle which also they're going to be fighting alongside, which I just point out to you. Yes. I mean, just in case the verdict doesn't go in their favor, they have a plan B in place.
Right, they do have a plan B in place. Lots of developments is also coming in from the Rajasthan High Court, where the arguments are happening about the maintainability of the petition, whether the notices are premature. We were talking about the likelihood of an assembly session being called in or a floor test to happen, and you said that it would be important. What is the purpose of this floor test, or what is the political purpose that Ashok Gehlot is looking at? Could you also talk about those options a little bit more, Pallavi?
Very quickly, Anusha, the main purpose, of course, would be to show that they have the confidence.
Right.
The BJP is more or less moved away from the demand for a floor test, but I think that's Gehlot's way of showing to pilot and the dissident MLAs,
Yeah.
possibly break the back or unity of the dissident MLAs as well by saying that, we have the numbers. Second is the exactly 10th schedule of the Constitution I was talking about.
Yes.
The Speaker will call a vote of confidence on the recommendations of the Gehlot government.
Okay.
If the MLAs don't
Pallavi,
turn
please
up
stay
or
on
they
with us.
abstain.
Please stay on with us. I'm sorry I have to interrupt you. There's some more latest updates which is coming in from the Rajasthan High Court. As I was telling you, these are arguments which are currently underway before the division bench of the Rajasthan High Court, which are about the maintainability of this petition. The Speaker says, which is the Ashok Gehlot side says, that there is a limited ground to challenge the notice. Only on very limited grounds can a Speaker's notice be challenged in this manner. And secondly, there is no final decision which has been taken on this matter. And once the final decision has been taken, then the MLAs can come forward and challenge the notice before the High Court. Utkarsh Anand is also with us on the broadcast. Utkarsh, all these developments coming in, you were also pointing out to the various facets of the 10th schedule. Are there any precedents that one can look at?
Well, these are the preliminary objections being raised by Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi regarding the maintainability of the petition itself. Now, according to him, this petition is not at all maintainable at the present stage. And these are disqualification notices which have been issued. Now it is for the dissident or the MLAs to reply to those notices. Till the time the Speaker takes a decision, there is no cause of action on the basis of which they can approach a High Court. And these are petitions under Article 226 of the Constitution, which gives extraordinary jurisdiction to a High Court. According to Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, there have been a body of judgments which say that there will be a scope of very limited judicial review in these matters. He gave an example by saying that, like the Speaker of an assembly cannot order that the proceeding of a court can be recorded. Likewise, and there are Lakshman Rekhas drawn between the legislature, the assembly, parliament, and the judiciary. Till the time the Speaker decides and those decisions are challenged, a High Court should not interfere. He also cited a recent judgment of the Supreme Court in which the court has said that a Speaker must decide the issue of disqualification within 6 months. Now, he is saying that now here there is a prescribed timeline by the Supreme Court in these matters. In these circumstances, if there was request made by the chief whip of a party, it was incumbent upon the Speaker to seek reply from these MLAs, 19 MLAs. Therefore, there is nothing wrong which the Speaker has done, and it is not a stage where a High Court, a constitutional court, interfere or have a crackdown on the power of issuance notices of the Speaker. Anusha.
All right, so those are the preliminary arguments, as Utkarsh is pointing out, which are being raised by Abhishek Manu Singhvi, which are on the maintainability of this entire petition. Going forward, Utkarsh, why don't you, also tell us a little bit more about the other side of the arguments? But we'll talk more about that because we're now shifting our focus and going to some latest stories. The COVID-19 curve in India, how the numbers are faring. We have crossed 11 lakh cases across the country. We have seen the highest single day spike so far of over 40,000 cases. The fatality rate is under control, but clearly the recovery rate has gone down. Radhika Ramaswamy is joining us on the broadcast. Maharashtra continues to be the worst affected state. Mumbai is badly affected by COVID-19 along with the cities like Pune. Radhika, tell us more about other cities which are facing the COVID crisis. Yes, Mumbai, Pune, ever since the pandemic has started in India, has been under huge pressure. Are there other urban clusters or hotspots as well which are emerging?
Yes, absolutely. There are other hotspots that are emerging, and Mumbai is no longer the biggest contributor as far as Maharashtra's caseload is concerned. Yesterday saw more than 9,500 cases, which is the highest single-day spike as far as the state of Maharashtra is concerned. And of that 9,500 cases, only about 1,000 is from the city of Mumbai alone. There was a time when 50 to 60% of the caseload was contributed by Mumbai, but now it has come down to almost 10 to 15%. So the focus has definitely shifted to other areas within Maharashtra, which includes areas within Mumbai metropolitan region barring Mumbai. So that includes areas such as Thane, Navi Mumbai, Kalyan, Dombivli, Mira Bhayandar. all of them are contributing to almost 3,000 cases on a daily basis. Now, besides these areas within MMR, there are areas such as Pune. Now, yesterday saw 1,800 cases in a single day in Pune. Pimpri Chinchwad, which is within the Pune district, a smaller area, saw 800 cases. So clearly there are other clusters that are emerging within the state of Maharashtra. The number of cases may have come down or may have stabilized in the city of Mumbai because, you know, when it comes to Mumbai, there is some good news. 70% is the recovery rate as far as Mumbai is concerned. Whereas if you look at the recovery rate in the state of Maharashtra, it's 55%. Now, doubling rate as far as Mumbai is concerned has increased to 55 days, which is, you know, good news because, you know, there was a time when Mumbai was contributing to the huge caseload as far as Maharashtra itself is concerned. But that way, you know, Mumbai is showing some sort of respite in terms of numbers. But clearly, there are various other, you know, districts and cities that are emerging as big hotspots, be it Pune, Pimpri, Chinchwad, or areas within Mumbai metropolitan region, Thane, Navi Mumbai, Kalyan, Dombivli, Ulhasnagar, Mira Bhayandar. So all of them are contributing to a huge caseload. Of course, you know, there have been lockdown in all of these places. In some of these places, lockdown have been lifted. But clearly there is no respite despite, you know, a lockdown, you know, despite lockdown being implemented in many of these areas. So looks like the state government has to take some drastic steps when it comes to controlling the numbers in various other parts of Maharashtra. Maybe the Mumbai model needs to be replicated in other parts. Currently, Mumbai is, you know, showing some sort of improvement in terms of the number of cases that is being witnessed every day. But one must also note that as far as testing is concerned, you know, almost 40,000 tests are being conducted in the state of Maharashtra, which is also a big, which is also what is contributing to this huge caseload as far as the state is concerned.
All right, so the testing is also significantly gone up. Radhika, it's interesting you talk about the Mumbai model. We know how in areas like Dharavi, the COVID numbers were controlled. That is something that has been appreciated across the country, across the world. Going forward, when you talk about the Mumbai model, there are very clustered, focused models that the city of Mumbai adopted. What is the strategy that we are looking for other urban clusters which are emerging right now?
Yes, Mumbai model, or rather the Dharavi model, has been a successful one. We saw how, you know, there was a time when Dharavi was the biggest hotspot in the state of Maharashtra, and now we are seeing less number of cases. There have been days when Dharavi is witnessing single-digit cases as well. So, you know, aggressive contact tracing, testing, of course, and targeted testing is what they call, and aggressive contact tracing is what you know, the authorities have been looking at. Of course, testing strategies have changed. Mumbai has adopted this anybody can test policy as well, whereby you don't need a doctor's prescription. Symptomatic or asymptomatic, you can get yourself tested, which is why, you know, at least testing numbers in Mumbai are slowly increasing. Earlier, it used to be just 4,000, 5,000 a day. Now it has increased to 7,000. Of course, testing capacity has to be increased even more in Mumbai because, you know, there are resources. The testing capacity can be almost close to 12,000 as far as city of Mumbai is concerned. But, you know, yes, when you look at Mumbai model, yes, it is a huge containment strategy that was adopted across the city, be it in terms of places such as Dharavi, Worli, Kolivada, Govandi, slum clusters where aggressive screening was happening, you know, door-to-door screening was happening, you know, better focus on older people, vulnerable people, you know, oxygen support for vulnerable people. So all of these focused approach is what led to, you know, a reduction in the cases in the city of Mumbai. And there was huge focus on these slum clusters where a lot of these cases were emerging, be it Dharavi, be it Worli, Kolivada, Govandi, and many other areas. Of course, now the hotspots have shifted within the city of Mumbai. There are places within North region and K-East region which are emerging as bigger hotspots. But still, containment strategy has definitely worked in the city of Mumbai, which is why we are seeing a huge reduction in the number of cases, and almost 70% is the recovery rate in the city.
All right. Thank you, Radhika, for getting us all the very important details on that story. So clearly, not just Mumbai and Pune, there are other urban clusters as well which are emerging. Well, once again, a very warm welcome at the top of 11 a.m. I'm Anusha Soni. Our focus continues to be on the pot boiler in Rajasthan. Hearing is underway. COVID numbers also raising alarm here in India. A quick check of the headlines. Rajasthan High Court hears petition filed by